For the movie Titanic, we unearthed every known photograph, pored over architectural drawings, and built our ship rivet by rivet, making sure everything was in its rightful place, as was known back in 1996. Today, at the Reagan Library exhibit, we'll look back at some of our film sets armed with ROV footage from my 33 dives to the wreck to see what we got right and what we didn't.
It's quite proper, I assure you. This is the sitting room.
Wow, so they've completely rebuilt the set. You know, I haven't seen this since we made the film 20 years ago.
Isn't this great?
It's great, yeah. This was like one of our first couple days of shooting. And one of the very first things that Kate Winslet and Leonardo had to do was, you know, get naked. We were inspired by this Regency motif that was known to be on Olympic and known to be on Titanic in other rooms. And we placed it into the Portside Millionaire Suite, the three-room suite, because nobody knew what was in there.
We didn't know that at the time.
I was working in what was not known. The crazy thing about all this is we made the movie in '96, and in 2005, we got into the Strauss suite on B deck, and it looked just like the fake set.
The most excited I've ever seen you.
Oh man, that was like I was geeking out.
Oh, say it's not the clock.
It looks like a clock
Say it
to
is
me.
not the clock on the mantle. Oh my God!
And look at the
This
woodwork.
is outrageous.
It was just sitting there.
It was utterly surreal.
It was like a little bubble of perfect preservation.
Oh, it's unbelievable. If you wrote a screenplay with that, it's almost, you know, like pushing it. Yeah, sure, the clock's going to still be sitting on the mantle.
It was.
Of course, it was attached for heavy seas in the North Atlantic, but that nothing hit it, that no furniture floating around the room
Took it out or broke the glass.
Exactly.
That clock holds an important forensic clue. That clock has the time that this cabin flooded.
Right.
And we know the times on the chronometer on the bridge, so if we can get the time off that clock and match it to the time on the bridge chronometer, we have the rate of Titanic sinking.
You're telling me I got to go back down there?
Well, there's some muck on that thing. We need to clean it off and see what it says.
CQD? Sir?
That's right, CQD, the distress call. That's our position.
When we shot the film in '96, this was based on the best information we had.
Right.
There was one kind of funky double exposed picture
of Titanic.
And it showed kind of this area, as I recall.
And this is
You didn't
not
see any
in
of
the
that.
photo.
You didn't see any of that. We assumed it was there.
Because the Olympic photos showed
Yeah,
it.
so this was actually a pretty good reproduction of Olympic, and it turned out to be completely wrong for Titanic once we got in there with the ROV. So we kind of got this part right, and we got this part completely wrong, because this is all actually in a separate room, the silent room, right? The thing is, these guys were heroes. I didn't have time to get it into the film, but the wireless operators were like the hackers of their day. The actions taken by operators Bride and Phillips saved hundreds of lives.
They lost power on the set the day before the disaster. The Marconi maintenance manual says in this situation, you leave it alone, wait for a Marconi engineer ashore to fix it, and you're going to operate off this emergency coil here.
Yeah,
So
which
it's
is battery powered. Yeah, which had
battery
Zippo for range.
About 60, 70 miles theoretical range, which Carpathia was a little bit outside that range when she started to pick up Titanic's distress calls.
Right, and go in the other direction. So if they hadn't rebuilt the set, they wouldn't have been able to talk to Carpathia.
Probably not.
Carpathia saved over 700 people. The point is, they wouldn't have been saved if these guys hadn't disobeyed the rules.
So you want to go to a real party?
So this is the grand staircase, which we built it from the plans, the way they actually built the staircase. So the staircase has got a steel footing. Then when we sank the ship, it lifted. Wood is buoyant. It ripped off that footing and it all floated up. And it actually pinned two stunt players. Fortunately, they weren't hurt, but it was a pretty scary moment. When the wreck was first found, there was no staircase. And the assumption was made that the little wood-boring mollusks had eaten the whole thing. But then we couldn't figure out why all the columns and wall paneling and everything on the D-deck level and so on were still there.
And this
Didn't
is
add
so
up.
substantial. I mean, this is solid oak. Oak is
Yeah.
one of the strongest, densest woods.
Yeah.
And even if the wood had disappeared, where did all those iron balustrades go?
Yeah, exactly. So we went down and we looked around the bottom with the ROV. We couldn't even find remnants.
No.
Couldn't find remnants of the balustrades. We couldn't find remnants of the stairs or any of that stuff. So we thought, it floated out. It was an interesting, kind of art imitating life.
Yeah.
Where
Exactly.
if we hadn't made the movie, we wouldn't have come to that answer, I don't think.